So now, whatever you say now, forever be recorded, forever and ever. And whatever your kid does on camera, I can blackmail them forever and ever.
And that's why we're muting.
So whatever Hannah does, just know, Hannah, we are gonna we have it forever and ever. This is now being recorded.
Gonna tell all.
There we go. I see it, Hannah. I see it. But, well, I would, yeah, if everybody can they can mute theirs until, yeah, if you have a question or stuff, we'll unmute them. But we are grateful for just opportunities to come and chat, and we will record it. I know there's some that are just going to get on right now, and so if they will want to talk, but our desire in this is just to kind of have a conversation, share some things, do a little panel, just asking some questions, and then if you guys have questions to ask, I know when it comes to the thing of parenting, most of the stuff that we did, that I learned was just by hearing other people talk and observing what other people did. And I would take like this thing that this person did and this thing that this person did. And that's kind of how our parenting's been. We understand that everybody has a different situation. Everybody has different seasons. Every child is different. That's why, if that wasn't the case, then there'd only be one parenting book out there, but there's so many because everybody has a perspective on it. And so we're not here to say there's this perfect way how to raise a kid or do it with a kid. No, so I have different people on here to say how they did it. And so hopefully my desire would be that you could at least take maybe one thing out of this conversation that we have here over the next 60 minutes together, that you can take one thing that will help as you walk down in this time. So I hope that you do have some questions, or if you have questions as we go through this. If you've never used Zoom before, on the side or at the bottom it says chat, and on the side, if you have a question as we go down, just type it in, and we'll try to answer those. I have it up so I can see. If you have a question that you would rather not everybody else see, but you would like to know the answer for it, you can actually just type it in to me. At the bottom it says to everyone, or if you click on that, it can say to Jeremiah, and then I can know that, and I'll just ask the question and answer it that way. So that's there on the side. If there is something as we go through this, yes, the goal would be to get as specific as we possibly can and talk about a lot of different things. And so we're going to try to move fast through things. Hopefully I told the people on the panel that their answers be quick and short, so that maybe it hits home for you, but not for someone else. Maybe the next one will. And we'll just kind of keep going through this time. And the goal is to hopefully encourage you as we go through it. So why don't I pray, and then we'll get started. God, we thank you so much for every parent that is here. I thank you for their life, Lord. I thank you for who they represent right now, the children that you have blessed them with. And God, I pray that you would just give us grace as we walk down these road of parenting for your glory, God. In the name of Jesus, I do pray. Amen. Well, let me just first introduce the people that, I don't even know them, but just kind of, I've asked Jim and Vicky and Sam and Jesse to kind of do it. So just quickly, just how many kids you have, ages of your kids. And so we tried to get the life stage of like every stage from baby to grown with baby. So we kind of filling out the whole thing, from Sam and Jesse at the bottom, and Steph and I kind of in the middle, and Jim and Vicky, not that you guys are at the end or anything of your life or anything like that, but trying to get that. So Jim and Vicky, just your guys' kids, where their age group and where they're at this time.
5 kids, oldest 28, youngest 13, 3 married.
Nice.
2 grandchildren.
2 grandkids, yep.
And 2 on the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
2 grandchildren, 2 on the way.
And so you got, when you're kids, you had 4 boys though at one time.
Yeah.
Right.
Running around your house.
4 boys, and then we had them from 92 to 98. And then we adopted Olivia in 2007.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Sam and Jesse.
So we have Isaiah's 1, Samuel's 4, and Grace is 6, and Grace just started kindergarten this year. Samuel started preschool preschool for the first time this year, and yeah,
Nice.
it's been a fun one.
And ours.
Range from Haddon will be 15 this summer. So right now 14 to 6. So
On between. So hopefully we'll be able to kind of hit as we kind of walk through this. And I know even as I'm not in that stage yet. You're going to get there sooner than you think. And so sometimes it's good to learn advice from what's coming. So in those days ahead as you walk through, let me say from the beginning here, we have not arrived. There's no one here that we have mastered parenting. Our kids sin, and they have very wicked, sinful natures. And so we're not standing here or sitting here. And I know same Jesse and Vicky and Jim would say the same, like the perfect parenting. That's not it at all. This has been a journey as we've walked down this road too. And so know that as we kind of go through this as some thoughts, it's not because, some of it's out of our mistakes we've learned. It's out of observing other families that we walk down this and want to share some things with you. Let me just start by laying a foundation. And I promise I'm not going to preach or anything, okay? At least I'm going to try not to. But we have to lay the foundation first, and then we'll get to those questions. Because I think you have to ask yourself when it comes to this whole thing of parenting, of what kind of child are you trying to raise? What is the mission of parenting? Because if you don't start there, then you're not going to know what you want to do with your child or what parenting is going to look like. And so from the beginning, from when that, they can have a child or wherever your child's at, if it's, middle school, teenager, you have to ask yourself, what kind of child am I? And that question you probably should continue to ask yourself. It's not just a one-time thing, because that's what keeps us going back to the basis of what we're trying to do, the foundation of what we're trying to do. And so if you were to say, Jim, okay, so what is the mission of raising kids? Well, it goes back to what the Great Commission is, right? To go and make disciples. And so it's not really any difference in that. The mission of parenting is making a disciple of Christ. And that really is where we sit and where we stand, is that our mission is to make a disciple of Christ. Now, the frustrating thing about parenting is I can't force my kid to do that. I can paint that picture for them. I can show them that way. I can scream, I can holler, I can wave. But we know, and at the end of the day, that child's going to have to choose to walk down that road. And I guess the best illustration that I've seen is that if a child is standing at a fork in the road, and there's one way is to be a disciple and a follower of Christ, and there's one way of them to go after things of this world, I want to paint the picture for them of what it looks like to follow Christ so clearly that they will walk down that road. And again, some are going to, some aren't. And by God's grace, yes, we all desire to, but I don't want to make it so easy where they think this world is so appetizing, that the relationship with Christ just looks so terrible. And so those things are really important as we walk down, that it is to make a disciple. That's what we're going after in this. And so the question is, raise a good moral child, or are you trying to raise a godly, obedient child? And if everybody can mute their camera, that would be awesome. But if those are the different things that we are trying to walk down, of what type of child are you planning on raising, and what does that look like? And let me read a verse for you here, and then we'll get into some questions that we can ask. And someone, I still hear some child just for a second, if you don't mind muting. Deuteronomy chapter 6, it says this: "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligent to your children. You shall talk to them when you sit in your house, when you walk in your way, when you lie down, and when you rise up." Anytime if you go to any conference on parenting, that verse they're always going to teach, they're always going to share. And the importance of understanding that verse, though, first of all, is it starts with us. It starts with our walk with God, starts with our relationship. the best model our kids are going to have is us. And so we have to do it. And then as we model it, then it goes and it spills off into what we do. And that is so important that, yes, it's not just, okay, if I do these 5 things and my kid, I have them do this, then they're going to be like this. No, the best thing you can do is for you to model it and for you to teach it and for you to walk down a pathway that they can just see it, the best way for them to do it. And that is crucial when it comes to parenting, because as a pastor, I see so many people, like, they have kids and they start coming to church and, okay, let's just, get them around Justin and get them around Sam. And then, hopefully then they're going to rub off on them. And yes, those are good things, but it's your walk with God. If you want your kid to be a prayer warrior, then you better show them how to pray. If you want your kid to have a love for God's word, then you better show them how to read God's word. If you want your kid to have a heart for mission and to love your neighbors and to be on mission for Christ, then you better show it. And so that's crucial when you say, okay, if I'm trying to raise a disciple of Christ, if I'm not modeling what a disciple looks like, then this really it's not going to happen. Yeah, I hope there's some that catch it through other people, but the best model they have is you. And so when you figure out, what do I want my child to do and to be, then you do it. And not just telling them what to do, but you do it. So I pray that's our foundation that I wanted us to at least start with tonight, that we're going after raising kids that are champions for Christ. And that is our desire. That's what we want to help you with. That's why we want to sit here. But we also know that in that time, they're just the mundane or just the day in and day out things like, how am I going to get my kid to bed? Or how much TV do I let my kids watch? It's just that I think it's good to be able to bounce off each other and say, hey, what are you doing? And from people who are older to people who had kids, how much did you, and what it was, that we can just kind of bounce off each other as we walk down this. So let's start by this, as we've kind of started there. I'll ask each one of them, this question. Tell us just one, just so they know that you're real. Sometimes it's easy on Facebook to see how perfect. We always post pictures of perfect situations in our home. So share just one thing's been rough during these weeks, or maybe even past, or just one bad experience that took place, so that maybe someone can relate and be like, yes, that's us also, that we're not here just sitting with, perfect kids in this time. So who wants to start? Sam and Jesse? Or Vicky? Vicky's ready? You got one, Vicky?
Do you want to go?
Okay.
You go.
Well, so we had the opportunity, this is a little while ago, to be able to finally get away, just Vicky and I, without kids in there. And right in the middle of being away, you get the phone call that your child has been arrested and in jail. So yeah, it happens. It did to us. That wasn't an easy time, and we're not the Cleavers by any stretch.
The church family,
Yeah.
The church people at 28 Pentown Drive.
That's good. That's good. That's good. That's right. No, we're real. That's right. Sam and Jesse.
You want to go? Yeah, we have a lot of stuff. I'm gonna pick on her though for this one. I think just it's been with Grace in kindergarten. It was and having Isaiah around. It was tough having 3 kids now, and but there was a little bit of relief for her, I think, with Grace going to school and everything. So Grace not being in school and being here all the time, and Jesse having to help Grace with school, that's been really challenging. And so I think, I've been able to work from home a good bit, but I think it was a couple of weeks ago where I was at the church for most of the day working there. And I don't know if it was either a text or whatever, but basically she said she was crying all day. So she don't want to talk about it. I think it's too emotional. It's still too soon. But, it was just one of those things where it was just like too much, and it happens. And yeah, I don't cry. That was going to happen to me. But, I've had stuff too, where it's just like, it's just overwhelming, and it's okay because we're all in the same boat. So.
Steph, why don't you share, what's a day look like?
Yeah, so I obviously have I'm homeschooling my younger 4 kids. And then Haddon is now home as well, which is great. I love having him home, but, and he's done a great job, but with him being home, everybody thinks that like morning time is now game time. So, trying to wrangle kids back into school. But once I get up, I have one child that wakes up ahead of me every morning and wants to be done with her school early. So from the minute that I wake up, for the whole morning, she's asking me school questions. So before I even sit down to have my quiet time, I'm answering grammar questions. And then throughout my quiet time, I try to silence those, but usually I'm answering math questions. And then I go to work out and I'm dictating sentences to one of my children or 2 of them. And other ones are bringing their math questions to me. And I'm like jumping up and down in my workout and answering questions. And it's not necessarily the stress reliever that I'm intending for it to be, because I'm usually trying to answer questions and think about 3 different things at once. Breathing being one of them. And then I just go through the rest of the school day trying to help kids with school and making lunch and cleaning up. I think I cleaned up my schoolroom 3 times today, and it looks like a bomb went off in it again. So yeah, I just walk around from one room to the next, and there's laundry, and there are clothes, and there are toys, and there are wrappers, and I keep telling my kids they're supposed to put away their trash, but there's trash on the floor that some of them forget. And then just lots of little fights, because they have a lot of energy right now, and it's great that they're all here together, but they have a lot of time to be together, and they're kind of tired of each other. So lots of arguments and peacemaking, and sometimes I just tell them to go figure it out by themselves, because I don't know how many more fights I can resolve. And then Jeremiah comes home and I send everyone away for like 5 minutes so that I can breathe, because I'm overstimulated by the time supper comes around.
So maybe a couple of those things you guys relate with, and what's going on in your home. But yeah, at the Canfield home, they don't just sit around and memorize the scripture all day, as much as I'd love that. That is not what happens. And we're growing it. So let's take it into 4 subjects or 4 topics, and we'll just go through these real quick as I kind of thought through how to kind of outline our conversation here. And we're going to talk about like energy. How do we get energy out of kids? What's that look like in kids? Because if you have them, it's probably going to have a little bit energy, and then just fun. How to have fun with kids and make some ideas of how we can. I don't think parenting is just supposed to be about, hey, we got to do this. I think there's an aspect of enjoying our kids that we need to have. And from the younger age to the older age of what is that? So maybe just a couple ideas. I was blessed to have a dad that was very creative. And so a lot of things that we did is because I saw what he did, and then I'll look and see what other people do with fun with their kids. And so I'll do that. And I don't mind stealing from anybody when it comes to those things. So hopefully we'll be able to throw some ideas out for you guys. And then just the spiritual aspect, how do we help our kids? And then lastly, just what does bedtime look like? That can always be a tricky time for everybody. What does that look like? And maybe there's something that we can give a thought and idea that as we walk through this. So those are the ones. If you have questions, specific questions, again, please type those in on the side as we go through those 4, energy, fun, spiritual, and bed, and the next couple minutes that we have together. And I'll just kind of ask 1 or 2 of each one of you guys on this. So I don't know if we'll hit all of us, unless you really have something. Sam or Jesse or Vicky and Jim, please. Otherwise, questions on the side, please let us know. So let's talk about energy. How do you get energy out of your kids? I grew up with 4 brothers, and so there are 5 boys in my home. That's where I grew up. Right now I have 2 kids that are boys, 3 that are girls, and they all have energy. They all love to run. I don't have one. I don't think any of my kids, just not too many of my kids, just like to go sit and be alone. They all want to have someone around them and doing something. So we'll start with like younger. So Sam and Jesse, what are some ideas? Just give a couple creative ideas that as you're trying to get energy out of your kids, what are you doing?
A couple of things. We try to have like a gym class type thing. So we have in our game room, we don't have a lot of room, but we play, like, we have activities down there. So we play soccer, and we use like a door and some wall as like the goals. And it's the most ridiculous game of soccer, but the kids have so much fun, and it's good exercise for me too. We're just kind of running around in a little space and playing soccer. So like stuff like that. Basketball, if you don't have a basketball hoop, using a box, just throwing stuff into a bucket, having them answer questions. Like and giving the opportunity to throw something in a bucket or something like that has been good. And one other thing that's been really good is, we don't like TV all that much, but we always try to use the TV as something either educational or just something positive. So like on YouTube, there's a lot of like kids like exercise videos. So there's like this little like kids yoga thing that's themed for kids that Grace and Samuel tries to do. He looks ridiculous doing it, but
That's awesome.
they do that. And it's just, and Samuel has this little karate kickboxing thing that he likes to do. So again, it's something that they love watching on TV. So, we take that and let them watch it and do some exercise, and they enjoy it.
That's good. That's great. It's good. Steph, some ways to get some energy out.
One of the favorite ways when Jeremiah's home is it was his idea. Sit on the couch and he tells them to run and touch something in the house. They think it's great and we just get to sit. So I'm a fan of that. So we'll sit on the couch and he'll be like, Haddon, I want you to go touch this. Karis, go touch this. Eliana, go touch my bathtub. Selah, go touch your bed. Titus, run and touch this. And they all have to run as fast as they can and come back. But they think it's great. And we just have to come up with more things for them to touch. And we'll like do things downstairs, whatever it takes to get their energy out. So that's one of the things that we like. Obviously on the days where it's nice out, our kids have been playing Foursquare, just drawing a chalk Foursquare lines, whatever, on the driveway. And they're out there playing that a lot. Trampoline is helpful. Even like I bought an old croquet set that was on sale someplace. And so they'll go out and play croquet in our backyard. And it's something simple, but it at least like gets them outside and hitting a ball around. So to me, anything like that is helpful, just to get them out of the house as much as possible on the rainy day or on the warmer days.
Yeah, we've also make them work out with us. Titus does a lot of the workouts. He's 6. Like we'll sit there and he'll just do them with us. And Steph and I are doing them. So that's just getting that energy out. But yeah, a lot, especially with my younger kids. And as they, yes, Haddon 15, do we still make him run and touch stuff? We do sometimes because it's a family event. But we've been doing that since they were little, of just sitting down and they think it's fun, how fast they can do it. And they just run, touch something, come back, and we'll do it over and over again. And or I'll tell them to go find something, almost like a scavenger hunt. They'll run and do it. And again, they think it's fun, but in our mind, I'm just trying to get their energy out is all I'm doing. And so they got to do it as fast as they can and come back and show us, then go back. And so anything you get your kid just moving definitely helps, because I'll tell you, a tired kid, they sleep better. So a lot of times why kids aren't ready to go to bed is because they're not tired. And in this time of isolation like this, it's been harder to find that. But, if you can make a game out of them running and exercising, it really helps in that process. Jim and Vicky, well, what's some ways you guys, 4 boys, you had to get energy out of them somehow, so.
Oh yeah, a lot of wrestling. When Dad came home, there's a lot of wrestling. But when you're a mom of 4 boys, you're a boy too, basically. So for me, I did the same thing they did. We'd go hikes, we'd rake leaves, we'd jump in leaves. Most of the homes that we had, we always made sure there was a basketball hoop. And the one home that they spent most of their younger years, it was on a main road, but Jim's dad had a big basketball court in the back. So they were always rollerblading. That little Tykes car, the little red and yellow one. 2 were inside, 2 were on the top. I mean, it was just constant. So that was never a problem for us, because boys are so physical. There was always something. Building cabins, whatever. I mean, it never stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was exhausting.
Okay.
And then Miss Olivia comes along, and like for her now at 13, during this quarantine, we've taken walks together, or she's still doing dance online with her dance class. So she'll be up there like in her point shoes. You could feel like the ceiling's coming through, boom, boom, boom. And so she's doing that to keep going. And
She bakes.
Huh?
She bakes.
Yeah, but for physical energy though. Yeah. So 4 boys. I mean, what can I say?
That's good.
It was always loud and chaotic, but I loved it. So
I think another thing we did is, like, we have this laser tag game that has allowed our kids to go in the basement, and I'll go play with them, and we'll run around the house. We
Capture the flag.
did it last night in the whole house, capture the flag. Hide and go seek is another one that you got to go. And then again, they got to hide, and then when you chase them to run, they got to. And again, we've done that since they were like 3 and 4 to Haddon being 14. We played laser tag as a family last night. Turned all the lights off and ran around and shot each other up. And so that was
With lasers.
with lasers, but it got some energy, got people running, got people moving, and it wasn't just us, sitting in front of a TV. So some of those investments, like we invested in bikes during this time, so that we could go down and take bike rides, and so we put some money towards some of that stuff that we know we could use in that. So now the difference between energy and when a kid, I think when I talk with parents, how do you know if the kid's just has a lot of energy or is the kid being disobedient? Okay. Because that's where sometimes they almost seem the same. But what is the difference? If I just hit on that for a second here, and then I asked you guys a question on it, but just disobedience and just a kid's energy, be careful that you don't discipline your kid just because he has a lot of energy. I remember my dad saying that over and over when he would talk about parenting, and I see it with my kids, that sometimes they're not being rebellious, they just have energy, and so they do some crazy things. And so you have to be cautious. Just because it annoys you, annoys me as a parent, that doesn't mean that I'm going to discipline the same. I discipline, or we discipline, for if they're directly disobedient to us, then that's one thing. If they are disrespectful to their father or mother, especially to the mother, if I'm there, that's a severe discipline. And then if they're hitting their siblings or just being flat out mean, that's a discipline. Okay. The other things, like, yes, we do spank our kids, and I know there's things that go around of how you, if you should or should not. I still would go probably with the scripture saying that, to not spare the rod. Now, it doesn't mean you beat your kid at all. We do one swat if they're disobedient. It is a whole process that we take them through as we do that. But it's for those things: disobedience, disrespect, or if they're just defiant, bullying another child. Otherwise, it's a lot of times it's just they have energy, they forget to do this, or they weren't being rebellious. We told them to go do this, and they started to walk towards their bedroom, and the dog ran by, so now they're starting to go play with the dog, and they totally forgot they're supposed to clean the room, and they just totally. I don't think that deserves a spanking. They're just kids, and they're forgetting things, and so so some of that's just okay. We got to remind them though still. And so we do a lot of what we have them run laps up and down from the basement to upstairs. And so if something like that takes place, or if they come to me and talking in a whiny voice, I know if you have kids that are walking in that stage yet where they're whiny, if a kid starts to talk to me in a whiny voice, I make them run a lap, and then they come back and talk to me again. I said, that's not how we talk. So go run, go take a lap. They know what a lap is. They go down, touch the basement floor, and they come back upstairs. I found if you understand, most kids, especially if you have younger kids, from 0 to 5 is when you're really teaching your kids how to obey. You're trying to form ruts in their life of how to obey, of what it is. So if a kid starts to make a rut in his life to not obey right away, or a rut in their life to say no to you, or to hit you, or any of that stuff, if you don't correct it quickly, it becomes a rut and a habit. And so you have to do something to kind of shift that. And so as, if they're coming, they're starting to whine. Well, you don't want to just let them do it. When people tell me they let their kids just fall on the ground and just work out their temper tantrum, that is the worst thing you can do, trust me. Because if they're doing it then, they're going to do it when they're 15 also. Don't let them do that. When my kid would fall on the ground and start to thrash around, I would run over and pick him up as fast as I could and hold him and look at him and say, that is not how we do it. I don't even talk to, I want to break him out of that rut right away. And so if you start to see your kid walking down and forming a rut, because that's what they're doing, especially at younger ages, they're forming ruts that they're going to then do. They say from 0 to 5, they're forming those ruts they're going to do for a long time. That doesn't mean that if you have older kids, you can't change that rut. It's just a lot harder to do it. It's almost in concrete then. Right now, it's kind of like in grass. And so as you're walking down with your younger kids and you start to see them even at 1 or 2 years old, and you start to see them forming a rut, then that you don't think, hey, that's not how I want them to do it, then you got to change it quick. Doesn't mean you have to spank them every time. It's just you just got to go, no, that's not how we're not going to act like that. And sometimes it's just totally shifting from what they're doing. So if they fall on the ground and start, thrashing around, man, you pick them up, you look at every time, say, Jeremiah, I bet I have to do that 10 times a day. Then do it. Okay. I know we did that very early with their age, and our kids didn't struggle with that as they continue to get into 2, 3, 4 years old, because we didn't want that. And so whatever you see them doing, you got to make sure you change it quickly in their mind. And so when it comes to, yes, disciplining, and it comes to even just bad habits that they're starting to form, there are different things you can do. You know what I'm saying?
And I was just going to say, changing it quickly doesn't necessarily mean that as you're focusing on it, that it's going to change in a day or in 2 days. Sometimes changing it quickly means you're going to have to work at it for 2 weeks really consistently. But I think that if we are very, very consistent with a specific struggle that they're having, whether it's whining, talking back, arguing, whatever, if we really hit hard and we just say we are going to hone in on this and really try to catch it every single time, which means we're going to be worn out by the end of the day because we're going to catch it 100 times that day, then if we do that and we really work at it, then I think it, rather than it being a 2-year-long process, it can be a 2-week-long process. So I just don't want there to be a confusion thinking that you're going to change it really fast, as in a day or two. No, like you're going to have to go into this for a longer haul than 2 days, probably, unless you just have a really great, flexible kid. We didn't, but maybe you do.
No, we would sit down and in a period of time and go, you know what, that part right there, that kid needs to change. And so we would go straight at it for a couple of weeks and just really both of us be on top of it and be like, we have to really go after this. And anytime we see it, we both got to be on it. And we'd see change them, because it's just for getting them out of the rut. Someone asked a question, and then let's go to Sam and Jesse. How do you guys discipline your kids or in that process as you guys think through that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very similar. We do spank them at times. It's really not that often, but yeah, we try to just look at the action and try to really examine and talk about the action. And we don't have it down now, but whenever they, react in a certain way, we kind of chalked it up in a certain category and kind of know, this is, discipline in this way or that way. So, it really, for us, I think it depended upon like our child, because our kids are, so different and they respond differently. So like, for example, like for Samuel, like for him, like going into the corner, that's the worst thing ever. If he gets, he just having just to stay still and stare at a wall, like, that's terrible for him. So, that works for him. What about Grace?
I mean, she responds very well to spanks, or just the threat of spanks, or sometimes apple cider vinegar in her mouth.
Or apple cider vinegar, yeah. Apple cider vinegar, that actually, yeah, that's her number one. And we do for Samuel, a lot of his discipline stuff is just energy. He has a ton of energy, and her being him with all day and trying to take care of Isaiah, it's just, it's just impossible. We call him, he's like a big dog. You need to work him early so he's tired for the rest of the day. So, so Samuel, he does a lot of running. We have steps. He goes up and down the steps, constantly. So that's, so that's a big thing for him. And we're working on, we'll see where Isaiah is at. How many months is he? He's 15 months. So
that's good.
So the temper tantrums are starting to appear. So,
and that's right. At that age, if you have younger kids, I know there's a lot on here, man, go after that from the beginning. Don't let it start. Don't let obedience is really, if you have one thing you're working on from 0 to 5, that is what you're working on. I mean, really, that's the biggest thing that you should be going after, is teaching your kid to obey at 5. Most of the spanking should be 5 and under. Doesn't mean they don't happen after, and it does, but most of them should be 5 and under. If that's the one thing, you say, I can't do all these lists. So they just go after obedience. If they know how to obey between 0 and 5, where when you say something and you come and take care of it, and if they don't, It's hard. There's 4 things that I'll say for discipline, then we'll move on. And someone asked this question, I'll answer that one. But in the area of discipline, it needs to be clear, it needs to be consistent, it needs to be doing it when you're calm, and it needs to be Christ-like. If you remember, those 4 C's in discipline is what I always try to say is be clear, know what it is, talk about what's going to be the discipline of just the energy. Hey, if that's running laps, go, 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 go. What's going to cause a spanking? Be clear. And that's even when your kids get older, from when they're teenagers. Hey, be clear on what discipline is. Make sure they know. Consistency is so important. And I know that's hard when you're tired, exhausted. That is so difficult, but consistency is so important in discipline. And then be calm. If you're mad, don't do it. Send them to their bedroom. You go to the bedroom and you calm down. But the worst thing you can do is discipline your child in anger. The Bible talks about that. It's never going to help. So make sure you're calm when you're doing it. And then the last thing, Christ-like. Remember, discipline is just a picture of what Christ does for us. And the reason why I think I understand Christ's discipline in my life as an act of love is because I saw how my dad did it to me growing up. And so it's an incredible picture showing. So question about discipline with a child with their speech problems. I'm guessing that you're talking about the kid can't talk back. Is that what you mean by that, Blocks? You can respond, but
Oh, there.
Yeah.
It's more, I
He
have
just-
more of an issue with it than Christine
It's
does.
hard to just understand what he's saying. So then,
I know
asking
I
him-
personally, I get frustrated with him because I'm more or less getting frustrated with myself because I can't understand them. And then I think in turn he gets frustrated with me simply because I can't understand them. So I have a hard time sometimes like keeping my cool because he's screaming about something and what he's saying makes zero sense to me.
Yeah.
And I've had plenty of situations where I've gone back and forth for minutes trying to figure out what he wants, and
because
I just
then
have
he
a hard time.
can't get out what he wants, and help us understand what he wants. He gets more frustrated, and then of course he doesn't want to obey because he can't understand what we're saying. Unfortunately, he is qualifying for speech therapy, but not been able to start it yet.
It's all been delayed because of everything that's been going on.
everything going on. So he's improving, and we're trying to work with him, but it's
He is
just
improving.
frustrating when we're asking him to obey, but maybe he was asking for something else, and it's something like he actually needed, like his diaper was poopy or something like that.
I'd say that goes to the area of, is he really being rebellious or is he just not understanding? And I think that's where you got to understand your child. If they're really acting out of rebellion, then yes, a spanking needs to be there. But yeah, in that situation where you're not understanding and you know he can't grasp it and he's starting to get frustrated, he's not trying to be rebellious. I would not take him back and spank him in that. After you got to pick him up, put him in your lap, and you got to walk through those times. Okay, let's point this. And like you said, yeah, it might take 5 minutes to figure it out. And that's tough at times, especially if you have other stuff you have to do and you have other kids. But yeah, I would not discipline as I would if he went over and slapped his sister in the face. You know, like that's okay. That's a little bit different. So that's where rebellion and that is different discipline than just, where limitations you're trying to figure out a child as they're learning how to talk. So let's keep going, and I'll start with Jim Vicky on the next one. Again, any other questions? Because like I said, I don't want to keep it too long. Just fun, having fun with your kids. Jim Vicky, what's something you guys did to have fun with your kids as you go through this time?
Through this stuff?
Or just, yeah.
You talking about during this pandemic stuff?
No, even growing up, anything. Just something that you did to have fun with your kids that would be something that they can, an example that they can as they look this time.
Well, for the boys, it was always sports. You know, baseball and catching and hitting fly balls and grounders and those kind of things was the biggest one. Going to games, high school games or whatever the case may be. We used to do that quite a bit. Each of them had their own kind of little hobbies there, and just to try to engage them on their level for what they liked, no matter what that may have been, was probably the biggest ones for us growing up there. And, so sometimes I let them take the lead. What they show they're interested in doing, then you just kind of go with that, as opposed to trying to force them into their, you know, I don't want to say force, that's a bad word, but you know what I mean, to steer them towards something else that they maybe not enjoy quite so much.
No, I think that's a huge point, because I think if we can learn what our kids enjoy and then have fun with them around that. Like my 13-year-old daughter right now loves horses. So Steph and I, every Tuesday, one of us take her down and feed the horses. We have a horse shelter in our area, and she goes down and does that. And so that is fun for her. It's something she enjoys, you know, something Haddon wouldn't want to do that, but that's something that Karis really, really enjoys doing. So it's great of trying to figure out what does your kid enjoy, figuring out what they look at. As they get older, you're going to see what they're bent towards.
Yeah.
And that is they're going to enjoy doing. So if they see you take interest in that is huge. And so I agree. That's a huge thing. Did you want to add to that, Vicki?
Well, I'm just saying, enjoy what they enjoy. So if you have an idea of what you want your child to enjoy, you got to let it go. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you have to get into what you're not used to being into. Yeah. And they sense it, and each one's different. And it's that was a strength that Jim had. He was good with playing with them, like finding out if it was baseball. It would be they went to the card shows together. He got the Stratomatic game that they all made teams, and you know, or if somebody liked, you know, arts and crafts, it was kind of that stuff. It was made a big difference. That's where. And don't sweat the small stuff. Yeah. We're the people, if you want to learn by mistakes, listen, we got you. But I'm saying, like, enjoy them. Enjoy them. Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't compare yourself to what other families are doing with their kids. Create your own identity, and it's good enough. If the kids see that you're happy with them and having joyful times with them and engaging with them, it just covers a multitude of other things to worry about later.
Right. That engagement is so important. That most of the having fun is just us engaging with them.
Yeah,
and
they just want to be with you.
I think in a lot of parenting I see in our generation is we are sending our kids to have fun and sending them to do things to have fun, and then we parents think, oh, see, they're having fun, but it's more important that you are having fun with them in a smaller level than maybe what is out there as fun. But as long as you are engaging with them in it. It is so important. And I think even in these days, maybe some of that has come realization, because people can't send them to the neighbors. They can't send them, so they're having to do it. And I hope that doesn't change as we move forward, because that's really good. It's good. Sam and Jess, you want to add anything on that real quick?
I mean, yeah, I think it's especially as our kids, like especially Samuel and Grace, as they're getting into the school age, just the time, the attention, just, you know, it doesn't even matter what we're doing, but if we have our phones down and we're focused on them, you know, they really enjoy that. So we love music, we love dancing, so we have dance parties at our house, you know, all the time, whether it's, you know, the RC Kids music or whatever, you know, stuff we listen to. You know, we have so much fun just kind of dancing and just you know, having a blast together. And something that picked up during the pandemic is, like, she really just like projects like baking, like the kids like helping us bake stuff. So even like whether it's food or whatever, just different projects, just get them all on board. Say, hey, we're going to do this together, has been really good.
Good. Add anything? You have anything fun? Let me ask you this then. How about, just as we're talking about fun, talk about screen time for a second. Like what are we doing screen time, and just thoughts on that?
I feel like we're revising this all the time. Like, we'll do something for a while and then we talk and we're like, oh, we got to change this again. Or Jeremiah or I, one of us will be like, too much time, not enough time, whatever. So I feel like this is always shifting. But right now what we're doing is we have 2 days of the week where the kids are not allowed to play any electronics or watch any shows during the daytime, just to kind of pull back from electronics. So they don't love Mondays and Wednesdays for those reasons, because Mondays and Wednesdays, they don't get to play anything. And then the rest of the days, though, I always make them do their chores first. Like, school has to be done, chores have to be done, and then they're allowed to play some stuff for a little while, play stuff or watch a show. And then we'll do stuff as a family. But as far as like alone time with them playing something or looking at a screen or whatever, we tried to take off 2 days, and it has been good, just because, especially when our kids were little, we could see a really drastic difference. And I still see it in a couple of my younger ones, where if they've been set in front of a TV or electronics for very long at all, their obedience or their emotions is either they can't listen and obey because their brains have turned off, or they're emotional, super emotional when they get off. And so we're just trying to like kind of decompress from that a little bit. So a couple days a week, we just don't do it. And then I just have to be aware that if on the days that we do, as soon as their time is up or whatever, I send them outside or make them go run and play because they've got to re-engage their minds. So we're just trying to figure out how to balance it all the time, but that's what we're doing right now.
And every child's different, every family's different, and it's just don't just use it. Now there are times just for sanity's sake we put our kids in front of the TV. Trust me, we're there.
They're there right now.
That's right. So it is not. Don't feel bad as a parent if that day comes and you're just like, I can't take it. That happens. The biggest thing is just be strategic in what you have. You at least thought through how much time you want them to or what it should be, and not just always do it. Do you guys have any thoughts on that, Vicky, Sam, Jesse, to add to it before we move on?
No, I don't think we have a whole lot other than what you said there. It's just easy for the electronics to be the babysitter, and then it goes actually back to what we just said. The more they're doing that, the less engaged you are with them. So that's part of the issue.
And it does really play with the brain. So if your kid's not obeying a lot and you're trying to do it while they're watching something, or they're coming right out of that, and then you're telling them to go do a whole bunch of things right after they just finished sitting for an hour watching something, they're probably not going to obey right away. Like that's just, I mean, I guess Jim could probably talk more about the psychology of the brain, but just in my understanding, just the practicality of my kids, when I've watched them, if they just finished watching TV for a while, they got to get out and start moving around before they're kind of engaged again in the world. And so be careful that if you're trying to get them to do something right after watching TV and they're like, man, they're not listening, why not? Well, their brain pretty much was in numb stage for a while. So be cautious on that. I got a 15-year-old who loves video games, who has an Xbox, loves to play. And it's hard because a lot of his friends will play all day, and he'll go to public school and say, yeah, my friends will come home from school and play till 2 a.m. We don't allow that. We don't allow it at night. We don't allow them to play that late before they go to bed. If we're doing any screen time before bedtime, it's all together as a family. And that's just what we've chosen to do. I'm not saying people could choose what they want to do, but just be strategic in what you do in that. Let's go to the next one. Spiritual. We got 2 more here, just a couple minutes left. Sam and Jesse, how are you trying to paint the picture of, and again, if you have any questions about that, I will answer anything else. If there's still a specific question you have, just put it in the side and we'll answer it. Sam and Jesse, how are you trying to paint the picture of truth to your kids? As we're trying to paint that road of what truth is, how are you trying to paint that with your kids 5 and under?
Yeah, we're just trying to, the main thing is, kids, they see what you do. So we're just trying to model, a love for Christ, a love for the word, and model that in our own selves, and then in our family lives. So, having some type of, family worship activity. Yeah, we don't get a chance to do it every day, but we try to, and just having the time that we pray together, or we somehow read a scripture, or watch like a lesson, like on Right Now Media or something, just something that we can just show that, constantly be getting the truth into our kids' lives. And a lot of times at night, like whenever we have like a family type worship time, it's terrible. Like it's a disaster. It's like, we just are looking at ourselves like, you have to fight yourself to do it, because you're like, this is just terrible. But, but there's still those moments that work, and someone asks a good question. And I know for me and my parents, like they were Christians, but they didn't understand the Bible all that much. They weren't able to teach it, but they modeled it well. My dad, I saw him praying every day, and I saw their relationship with God. That model was huge for me. So whether you're able to teach your kids the Bible very well or not, that's not a big deal. It's about, are you intentional? Are you consistently trying to do it, and model, is your life modeled around God? And your kids are going to see that for sure. It's such a young age.
I think that you did it is more important than what you did. Okay, so being encouraged by that as you're doing family devotions or whatever, is that you actually did it is so much more important than what you did. And I'm saying that from dad who did it all growing up that I don't remember half the stuff he did. But I know he did it, and it was making that statement, God's important in our life. And so, no, it's good. Jim, Vicky, you have a teenage daughter right now. What's some things that you are doing to paint that picture of truth to your teenage daughter?
Right now we're going through a book called Everyone's a Theologian with her by R.C. Sproul.
Great.
But we're not always going through a book. With Olivia, well, I'm all over the place sometimes. I start something and then I see something better come along and I'm like, oh, let's do this. I do, but I don't feel guilty about it because I think the biggest thing is letting them see how you love Jesus.
Right. It's good.
And they do catch on, because with Olivia, it's truly been a joy. I'll have to say the difference of me with the 4 boys and then having Olivia is with the 4 boys, I didn't know the Lord how I do now. And when I say that, I mean like my parenting was more churchy and out of fear or watching what my friends were doing and never measuring up. So then I'd be frustrated. But yet God's grace was precious with my children. So I'm grateful that most of them are walking with the Lord. But with Olivia, the difference is that I know God's love for me. So I can give her that love and Jim can give her that love. And it's just more, it's calmer. It's more natural. It flows out of you. So major on the majors, you know what I mean? Like that's what we've chosen to do. We're enjoying training her in the Lord. And we're not going to get it all right. We've learned that, but God's grace steps in, and I'll tell you, he's precious. So
it's good.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, with being able to watch Jim and Vicky closely as friends too, one thing that I've really appreciated about them is that I've seen them have, like, with having older kids now who bring in their friends or girlfriends or whatever it is. I mean, I've seen several of your kids in that stage. And but you pour truth and you love their friends and you love them. I've walked in and Jim stitching up, or helping one of your kids' friends or something. And so using the gifts that God has given you, Vicky's is hospitality, Jim's is helping meet practical needs with medical stuff, but you've loved them and their friends really well. And I feel like their friends feel welcome in your home. And that's something that I want to happen in my home as well as our kids get older, is that friends want to come because it's an inviting, welcoming place where they are still getting fed truth and love, even as, they bring friends in as they get older. So I've appreciated that.
Yeah.
Were you asking me something?
Just any way that we paint a picture of truth for our kids.
One thing that I've tried to do since my kids were little, and sometimes I'd only get, I couldn't even tell you what I read that morning a lot of times when they were really little, but I wanted my kids to see me reading the Bible from the time that they were infants. And so I have tried to be very consistent to read God's word in front of them. Usually I've got a kid sitting on my lap or 2 kids squished around me, or once again, asking math questions or grammar questions in between. But I want to be consistent with that because I want that to be true in their lives. So I want to model that for them. And then the second thing is doing devotions with them. The benefit of them being home for school is I can right now. And sometimes they don't like it because it interrupts what they're doing. I just call everybody, and they're sometimes in the middle of a subject, but calling everybody together, and I'm just walking through 1 Peter. I just read like 6 verses and talk about them as we go. We're memorizing a passage in Psalms, and then we pray. But just collecting everybody back in the school morning, a lot of times it's really good because it helps me give them it gives me a chance to remind them what I expect. So today with what we read, I was like, all right, so we're supposed to love each other well. We're supposed to have unity. So here's what I expect from you today. I want you to be kind. I want you to be a peacemaker. And just being able to go over some of those basic things of what I expect from them has been really beneficial, even from when they were really little, because it just lays out the foundation first thing in the morning. This is what I want to see today. And this is what I'm expecting, and what I need to work on and what you need to work on. And then it helps carry it through the day. It's not perfect, but I feel like it is better the days that I am consistent with that than the days where they don't have that reminder in the morning of what I want to see in their character and behavior.
We do a lot of just devotional Bibles. Jesus Storybook Bible is really good. We right now have another devotional Bible that we read every time after supper that one of the kids read. Just kind of becomes consistency with that. Another thing you can do if you have real little kids, I'll tell a quick Bible story with one of those books, share it real quick, and then they have to go run and find something about that Bible story in the house and bring it back. So again, it gets energy out and it teaches them that. We've done things where the kids have to go run and find something. If you got a little bit older kids, they have to run and find something and then explain why that represents the person that's sitting on the couch. And so it becomes kind of funny at times, but it also is just another way to get our kids thinking and to do that. So be creative in your family devotions. If you have other thoughts on that, I could go on that for a while. I've thought through that a lot, but we don't have time. But if you start with this age group, and please let me know, and I'm glad to share some things with that. Consistency, though, is the most important, and that is it doesn't have to be something huge. It can be simple and consistent. I'm in that. And then last thing here, just bedtime. Just Sam, Jesse, not that you have to go through your whole routine, but what is one creative thing with bedtime that you guys do?
So yeah, we have our family devotions at night, and one thing that we try to do is we read books to them, but like for us, we like to I like to end the night on a good note, so to laugh together. So we have some type of funny activity. So usually it's a silly YouTube video that we watch together as a family of like kids falling down and getting balled up, something like that, something that so in order to get to the fun video, we have to have family devotion, so they know that they pay attention. Then we watch them before bed and before brushing our teeth. We watch a funny video together. We laugh together. Then we send them off to bed. So yeah, that's what it looks like for us.
Good. Jim, Vicky, any creative thing that you guys did? Just one specific thing you did during putting kids to bed?
Oh, guys, I mean, I tried. We kept routine with bath and everything. He worked a lot of nights, and I had a special need kid who was throwing tantrums usually the whole time. So I had to more go with that. So you don't want to use us as an example. I would just fall in the bed and die.
Oh.
So that's how it went. Liv's a different story.
Was there ever a change? When, I know having special needs and that, I mean, did you ever get consistency at all? Because I know
I certainly tried. I would try with bath time. We'd read a Bible story. We'd rub people down, whatever we had to do. And I had 2 sets, you know what I mean? So kind of had the 2 younger set, like Sam and Mike, and then Jake and Ben. So I was just in between. Like I said, Jim worked nights a lot. So I was just trying to survive.
That's good. That's good. That's a lot of times what bedtime
That's
is.
why I'm on this panel.
It is a lot of times bedtime is survival. I'd say the one thing that I know I do every night, and it's probably because of what my dad did for me growing up, is my dad would pray with us every night before we go to bed. And I do think a lot of times we can miss really good times with our kids because we're trying to get them in bed, because we know after they're in bed, we get freedom for a minute. And so sometimes we're trying to get to that so quick that we miss, I think, some really good times that can have with our kids, because the kid knows either they talk to mom and dad or they go to bed. And a lot of times they want to talk to mom and dad. So if you want an opportunity to really talk to your kids, then go lay next to them and they'll talk to you then, because it's that or bedtime. But I do that. And then every night before they go to bed, I just pray the Deuteronomy prayer. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you, gracious unto you. May lift up his countenance upon you, give you peace. I say that every night before they go to bed. My girls can't go to sleep until I say that. I mean, it is like they are waiting for that. So that's just something my dad did to us. He started doing that probably when I was 13 or 14, started to do that. And there wasn't a night that he didn't do that for us. And so it's something that I've done with my kids since they were little, of just showing that routine of getting Christ there at the end of the day, but and putting them to bed. So last thing, as Sam, let me ask you this. As you coming home from work and Jesse's with the kids all day, what do you how do you help support Jesse when you come home? I mean, when you come home, is it just, hey, you can sit and watch TV the rest of the night? It's because you've been working all day. I think that, so talk to the parent that is maybe not having the full-time responsibility all day working with their kids. What do you do when you come home? What's your mindset?
Yeah, I mean, it is a struggle because when you're coming home, you're thinking of, I'm thinking of myself and what I need to do. But what I've learned and I need to continue to improve upon is, we have conversations about what does she anticipate happening whenever I come home? So I develop expectations of what she wants, when I come home, and usually it's first I gotta acknowledge you and give you a kiss, right? That's always gold right there. And definitely, yeah, she's been with the kids, so she's just, wants me to assist her. It's not even like usually she doesn't even want a complete like full break, but it's just, it's how can we're a team now, and that's what I have to fight. Usually I'm thinking, I worked hard and now I need to relax, but no, we're still a team, and how can we work as a team to complete the rest of the day? So that's kind of the mindset there.
Jim, Vicky, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I do actually a little bit. And I had a conversation a long time ago with somebody said it really, and this is more towards your kids, but also I think some towards your wife as well. When you come through the door at the end of your workday, especially the kids, they really don't care that you were a banker or a teacher or a doctor or whatever the case may be, or how good or how bad your day was. That's immaterial to them. So, if you have had and spent 100% of yourself that day at work, it's just really too bad. You better go find that 110. You better go find that 110% because you gotta have to be able to give there. So they want you as dad. They want you as husband, not anything else. So if it takes 5 minutes in the car before you walk through the door to get yourself together there to try to shut off that day and find that little extra resource there, you just got to do it. Whatever it takes.
And I'd say for us, and someone asked a question about what if you both work, and I do think there's situations, other people in our church would be the same. That to me, what a mom is doing, if her job is to be with the kids all day, that is working. So if you're doing that, or because that's exhausting, it's harder than going and doing most of the other things that take place. Or if you're going and then coming back and watching your kids. Here's what you can't ever turn off, and you always got to be looking to engage. And it is exhausting. It's totally tiring. But I had to learn as a parent that when I get home, it wasn't like my wife was sitting around, having the kids feed her grapes all day and not doing anything. She was working and really hard, and at times more annoying than I can at least go shut my door if Justin starts doing something crazy at the church office. Steph can't do that. The thing is, I heard someone say early on in our marriage, I was listening, that basically when they get to the driveway, they just take off one hat and they put the other hat on. And there's a lot of times I will sit in my driveway for a couple minutes to make that switch of my hat because I know I have to. And that's if you both work, you might have to do that. When you start to come with your kids, you're still on, you're still engaged. And yes, it's tiring, it's exhausting, but it really is rewarding if you do it. Because I look at where my family's at today, my kids and my siblings, and I love being around my family, I love being around my siblings, I love being around my parents. And that's what atmosphere I'm trying to create now with my kids. So as they get older, that we enjoy being with each other and that there is a family unit that is there. So
I think too, especially if both work or if one spouse is working, it helps me if there are expectations set or like a routine or some type of idea set. So maybe if both spouses are working and then you're coming home, then you talk through, all right, maybe it's that you rotate who's gonna like get energy out of the kids. And Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it's dad and mom gets 30 minutes to like breathe. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, mom comes home and she's on in that way. Or maybe you both do it together, but maybe setting a plan or having expectations set, it helps me. Like one of our expectations is when Jeremiah walks in the door, sometimes it's after sitting in the driveway for 10 minutes. I've like searched him, like, like find Jeremiah. And I'm like, it says he's in our driveway, but he, what? And he's switching hats. But I know that when he gets home, we're going to talk and debrief on the day for 5 to 10 minutes. And then while I finish supper, he's going to do this. But just having a routine and schedule and some sort of order helps me know, okay, I'm going to push through until this point, because that's what we're going to do. So I work better with knowing what's coming or having a sort of expectation or schedule ahead.
Can I say one thing too? I think too is affirming each other in your roles. So like, there's a lot of times, I mean, I know what kind of day he's had, you know what I mean? He knows what kind of day I've had. And just saying thank you for what you did today. Thank you for providing for our family. Or he'll say to me, thank you, like stuff that you just do all day that you don't even, it's just good to acknowledge each other and what you're doing for each other, for the family too. It really goes a long way. Gives you a lot of energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Being nice.
Question there says, any advice for a parent that travels with a no set schedule? What do you mean by that? Just like the parent doesn't have a schedule, so you don't know how to really.
Trevor's schedules we never know if he's going to be gone for 1 night, 2 nights, 5 nights, that kind of thing. So there's no way to have a routine together, at least,
Right.
that can be consistent.
Jim and Vicky or Sam and Jesse, do you have any thoughts on that?
I never had that doing ER medicine where I would go from a day to off to 3 nights in a row to off, and then 2 day shifts and then off and all over the place like that. I have a little bit of empathy for what you're going through. And no, I don't have any magical answer other than that makes that much time, the time that you have at home, all the more that has got to be devoted towards the kids and towards your spouse. That's really it. It's hard because it really the to-do list, it never ends. No matter what age kids you've got, it never goes away. And you just got to be comfortable and disciplined enough to just set it aside for those times that you haven't taken that much more advantage of it. That's all. I mean, it's simple, nothing great, magical about it, but that's the only thing I would have to say about that.
Yeah. And and I'm Christine, I'm talking through, this is from things I've learned over the years. Like, so Jim was shifts all the time, and I was angry. I really was. I was angry because I felt like things were inconsistent, and I was doing all the work, and I had, that the kids pick up on that. And I'm not saying that you're doing that, but and then I'd be frustrated with Jim because he missed A, B, C, D, E, and I need him to do A, B, C, D, E all in one night. And it had already been 3 days that went by. And so the kids don't even know what you're talking about anymore. And, but a friend had said to me, she said, when your husband is gone and your kids are watching, say to your kids, if they're like, where's daddy? Don't say, I know, I'm waiting for him to come home. But, kind of really encourage them, like really boost your husband up and say, daddy's out working for us. Isn't that wonderful that he's out working for us? And when he comes up, things like that make a big difference.
Good.
And how you look at things.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
For your kids.
That is something that we do, and it definitely helps.
That's great. Yeah. Because I didn't. I didn't.
Days where when they were younger, I didn't, when they couldn't know the difference, they were babies, but now that they're older, I knew the difference when I was like, yeah, daddy will be home soon, to like, daddy's going to be home. And
yeah, that's good.
I could see that now, but before I would say I struggled with that too. So you're not alone.
Yeah.
Well, this one, it is 7:12, and I know Jim and Vicky have family kids in from Chicago, so I don't want to keep them any longer. Her grandbaby is in, so I know she.
It surprised me.
So this was huge, so I don't want to take that. So I'm going to ask Jim if you would just close us in prayer, but if you have other specific questions, my wife and I will stay on. If you need to go put your kids to bed, that's fine. But we'll be the last ones off. If you have a specific question you would like, we'd be more than happy to answer it. And really from here on out, please ask us. I really do I spent 3 years in Life Action speaking on family stuff. We don't have the perfect family at all. I just enjoy talking about it. And one thing that I really enjoy helping other families with it, and I enjoy talking about it. I've read a lot. I study this a lot. It just, I enjoy it. So please, you're not gonna, if you have a specific question, I don't know the answer, I'll tell you I don't, but I'm gonna give a thought that I've heard from somebody else now that we did it. But I love to get creative in disciplining, creative in helping, creative in getting kids to bed, creative in all that stuff. I enjoy doing that. So if you have thoughts or questions, please don't feel like you have to do it by yourself. I'm more than happy to talk with you. So Jim, if you don't mind closing us in prayer, and thank you, Sam and Jesse. Thank you, Jim and Vicky. But if you want to stay on, you have a question to ask, I'd be more than happy to chill here for a little bit and take any questions if you do. But Jim, can you close us in prayer?
Yep, sure. Thank you, Father, for being the ultimate example of a parent and a father, Lord, and through your word, Lord, giving us the instruction, Lord, and on how to be parents, Lord, and how to be gracious, Lord, and how to be forgiving. And I just ask that you would cover us as parents, Lord, and cover our kids in your love, Lord, and in your hedge of protection around us, Lord, and just cover our kids for the errors that we make, Father. May we be wise enough to realize those times, Lord, humble enough to be able to come to them to ask for forgiveness, Father. And may we be examples of youth to our children, Lord. And we give thanks for the blessings that your children are, Lord, for entrusting us for a short time with their lives, Lord. And may we just empower us with the ability to do the best we can with them, Father. And Lord, we give thanks again for loving us, Father, and we look forward to gathering together as a group again to worship you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. So if you can put your kids to bed, help yourself. Does anybody have a question? I'll be more than happy to stay on and ask you.
Bye-bye, Mr. Sam. Bye.
Hi, Emma.
So where's Olive? Right next to you?
Where's Olive right
I
now?
don't know where she's at.
Do you want to tell him your challenge?
Be at her house.
And I wanted to say, I was thinking maybe you can spin around in circles while you're eating a popsicle for the grand prize.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
That sounds more tasty than the last one.
Wait, what was the last one?
Okay,
Yeah.
I had to go. My brother wants.
Oh my gosh.
I don't have time for you anymore. Okay, I have a question. Do you have advice for staying calm? I feel like I'm just like quick to get really frustrated and angry when, like, especially Elisel, his age, he does the same disobedience over and over and over. And I feel like in the beginnings, I start good and like I'm patient, and then by the 3 minutes later, and he's disobeyed 50 times already in the same thing, I just get so angry so fast. And I want to, like, I don't know, I guess I struggle balancing like disciplining in the moment so he understands what he's being disciplined for versus taking a second to calm down. And yeah, do you have any advice about calming down or being calm?
A couple things come to mind. I remember, I don't know who it was, one of Jeremiah's parents or my parents, someone said, like, if you want to know, I think it was Jeremiah's dad, if you want to know how long your kids can remember something, tell them that when you get home from someplace, they're going to get a sucker. If they can remember 2 hours later that you promised them a sucker, then they can remember 2 hours later what they did wrong. So if you're like, I remember when they were little being like, I don't know if they even remember. Well, so I would do that test to figure out how long can they actually remember for. And usually it was a lot longer than what I thought. So that was helpful. And then I think one thing that my mom told me when my kids were little was, when you discipline, make sure that it counts. Like, make it count. Make it serious enough that It's not just like a little slap on the hand and we're done. Make sure that they understand this is a big deal and they don't want to cross that line again. It's that miserable that they don't want to do it again. And so, especially if there's a specific thing that they like a rut that they keep falling back into, whether it's, whining or disobeying or whatever, and you're going to go really hard at that, then I would say make sure that when you do discipline, that it has the effect that it needs to have, that they hate it that much that they don't want to cross the line. Not that obviously not moving into abuse or hurting them in any way that's wrong,
right,
but just that they understand this is serious and it is not worth it. The consequence is so bad, I don't want to keep doing it. So I think just making sure that you think through, like, because it's easy in the moment to just be like, don't do that, stop, just stop. And just doing that where it's not going to have the effect of setting them aside, setting them on your lap, looking at them really seriously and saying, this is what you did. This is the consequence. And it carries a lot more weight when we actually take the time to work through it. And you're probably doing that already, but I think I always thought back when there was something that I needed to work on with a kid that was struggling with something, thinking, I want to make sure that this counts because I don't want to do this for another 2 weeks. So how can I make sure that they get this seriousness of this?
And that goes with the getting them out of the rut. If it's just kind of a little like, don't do that, or a little slap, that's not going to get them out of the rut. Like, you got to think, if they're really starting to form something, you got to reshape it. So I remember Titus, when he was like 3, I told him not to jump on something or jump off of something. And I was talking with another pastor and he just went ahead and did it. So I stopped what I was doing, talking with the pastor. I walked over, I picked him up, put him in my arms. I looked at him, real close, and I didn't spank him right there. We're in public. Don't do that in public. But I said, that's disobedience. I'm not going to do that. Now you're going to have to stand by me. And so it was a quick change. It wasn't just like, hey, don't do that. No, those things aren't going to work half the time for our kids when they do that, especially at younger age. And then I would say for the other parent who's coming home, because yes, training your child is long, hard, and it is, the sinful nature is there. And so I know where if you have a spouse who's willing to come and help in that, then there's a passing the baton that should be there. And I know one thing when I come home that I can help, and I'm not saying not every family unit is like this, but if it is, when I come home, I try to take that baton. And really all the discipline, all the getting onto the kids is my responsibility when I come home. Mm-hmm. And I try to take that. That's because she's been doing it all day. And I'll tell you, that's exhausting. And so I try to get on that. And if they whine or cry, they're coming talking to daddy.
And I just send them. I'm like, Dad's home, you go to him. Or I call and I'm like, Jeremiah, this kid is needing a consequence. They're yours. But that helps. That is a lifesaver for me as a wife who's home all day, to be able to say, Dad's home, Dad's going to take care of it. Because sometimes by the end of the day, I have nothing left to give. I am just spent and I've poured myself out all day. I just don't have much left. And so that has been huge to be able to pass.
And then I'd say if your kid is, public school or with somebody else, daycare or whatever it will be, because I know we're going to record this and send this out. If your kid's in no situation, then yeah, when you come home, you're the one that's on making sure, because they've been forming ruts all day, that now you're having to switch those ruts and getting them in that rhythm of when it is. The goal is 0 to 5, that they know when you say to do something that they're either going to be rebellious and turn away and not do it, or they're going to learn to obey. And and if you could just go after that one thing at that age. Sarah Kay, it is hard, keep pressing on, Miguel helping that, and just, keep pressing on it, because it's easy.
And I cry out for grace, like verbally multiple times a day, where when I know that I'm going to have to do this again, I'm saying it again for the 50th time, or I'm breaking up another argument, whatever it is, I will literally stop in my tracks and just be like, God, I need your grace. I cannot do this by myself anymore. Now my kids know, whoa, we pushed mom way too far, because she has to stop before she even responds. But when they were little, that I just had to stop and cry out for grace. And I think it was James Dobson who said, your kids will push you as many times as they know that, until they know that you're really serious. And so that was super convicting to me, and still, like, if I tell a kid to do something and they don't come or they don't do it until the 5th or 6th time, it's because I've let them think that that's when I'm really serious. And so at different times, just tried to really work on, you do it the first time, and really helping them understand that, because
Yes.
I would let it
First-
slip and they wouldn't listen till the 5th or 6th time. So
if they know they have 3 times for you to ask, they're away 3 times.
yeah.
If they know that you're going to count to 10 before you're going to do something, then they'll wait till you get to 9.9 to do it. Like that, it should be the first time. That's what we're going after. And I'll say, so you have young kids right now, to keep doing it. It gets frustrating, but I there's so many times I had to come home and just tell Steph, hey, keep going. It does come out if you stay on it. And by God's grace, now all my kids are past that 5, and they all know how to obey. And that was a lot because of Steph's persistence in that time, that they knew by 5, 6 years old, when mom and dad says something, this is what they're going to do. And they weren't saved. That was just part of of just training the child. So it's good. Any other questions? Someone else?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I need like clear and concise communication. Like that's how I operate. And I feel like the lines between discipline and immaturity can be very blurred. So definitely becomes a tension point for us, just figuring that out. You got any insight on that, and any way that you can clarify?
So say it one more time. What are you trying to?
Like the lines between immaturity and disobedience as to what is just them being a kid, or what is actually worth disciplining. Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's, for me, I've had to learn what each one of my kids are, because I think it's different for each one of my kids. I think it's knowing where my kid's heart is at, and knowing where is he really rebellious right now, or is he really just have so much energy his brain's not connecting right now. And so I think for every kid it's different. And to me, though, where I guess the lines I would say differently is, if I tell my child to do something and he doesn't do it, that to me is disobedience. So that's pretty clear. So I know for me, if I ask him to do something, doesn't do it, that's disobedience. I know if he goes and hits somebody, that's wrong. I know if he looks at his mother and sasses back, that's wrong. So to me, I've made it really clear on what the discipline of like spanking is going to be. If I tell my child to go run a lap, I tell him to run laps all the time. So like, if it's kind of blurred, I usually run to the lap stage. And so I'll try to be very clear on what the spanking time is going to be, that this are for direct disobedience, bullying, or disrespect. Otherwise, it's just, I'm trying to break them out of a habit. And a lot of times the lap is what I'm using to break them out of the habit. My parents did jumping jacks for us, and I did more jumping jacks growing up than anybody can imagine. So I'd say the line, is there a line there? I know if I directly say something, then that to me is where the line is crossed. Does that make sense? Is that what you're asking? My understanding right?
Yeah, that helps. It's just challenging sometimes when you put yourself in their shoes. You know what I mean? Like, I'll give you an example. A couple weeks ago, we're outside and there's like a mud puddle, and I say, don't jump in the mud puddle. And they jump in the mud puddle. That's really tough for me to discipline on, because if I'm them, I'm jumping in the mud puddle. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a little kid.
Right. And so this is what I'd say for that. As a parent, I have to think, okay, I know I would want to do that too. So either I got to not say it, because it's better for me just not to say it, because even though that is what they want to, they still chose to disobey.
Right.
And so I'd rather just don't say the statement, because there are times that, I just won't say something because I know my kids are going to do it. I don't want to have to deal with the disobedience. I don't have to, deal with spanking them or anything. So I think it's better not to say it. Now, if he did do it, maybe it's in that situation, you pull him over, you put him on your knee and say something like, hey, I understand that looks a lot of fun for me too. I would like to do it. But when daddy says not to do something, what are you supposed to do? Not do it. Okay. Well, then we shouldn't do it. But because that looks fun to me too, let's go do it together. So like even that breaks them out of I disobeyed and no consequence. Like that's what you don't want to get to, is that when your voice says to do something that they don't listen. So at least stop and pull it aside and rearrange. Maybe you made a statement not to do it, but now you think about it like, well, maybe they should have, or well, then sit them at least have that conversation with your son, or pick him up, have the conversation, go someplace else if you don't want him to do it anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think it's better not to give instructions if we're not expecting them to obey them.
Right.
Because, or at least stop and have a conversation with them.
Sure.
And there's a lot of conversations I've had with my kids, not because when they disobeyed the place we were at, situation we were at, I couldn't spank them. I couldn't walk through that. But I've at least picked them up, held them very close, looked at them very close, and explained to them that is unacceptable. Again, I think that at least gets them out of the rut of, oh, this is fine, and no one's thought twice about it. To me, that is the most important thing in this aspect of child training, is not letting them get consistent in a rut that you don't want them in. And so you've got to break it up somehow in that.
Gotcha.
So it's good. Cool. Well, anything else? Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. See, the Ramirez have to be last on, so that's why they're just here, even though they don't have any questions. Last at church, last on.
He said we should leave, and I said we can't.
That's hilarious.
Well, Sam and Jesse, thank you. And
thank you.
You guys have a good rest of the night.
All right. Thank you, Pastor.
Yes.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.